Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. In this episode, we're going to debate what movie spinoffs we still need. Movie ticket prices, should they come down? As a Sony chairman alluded to, what happened at Cannes this year? Spoiler-free reviews of If and the Strangers Chapter 1. And is it time to forgive Kevin Spacey? Oh my. Let's get on with the show. My name's Aaron Peterson. Joining me today are my fellow hosts, John Davenport.
Hey, buddy.
Troy, it will be here for reviews. He actually will hop on for the If and the Strangers reviews. Amanda, you know. And now we are joined by Brian Williams.
Amanda is very Amanda-ing right now.
She is going full Amanda. Yeah.
Yeah. Since Troy couldn't be here, I did break out the Golden Girls T-shirt.
Oh, you saw his Facebook post, didn't you?
I did see his Facebook post in his 80-year-old drag outfit. That was very enlightening.
Context. So Troy was in a play for Golden Girls, apparently, and dressed as one of the Golden Girls, and he liked it a lot, like so much.
He really got into his.
I heard he's going to be reading books to kids in Florida soon. So look out for that, John.
I believe so. I believe he's booked at one of the Jacksonville libraries around here.
I already heard the governor was like getting the army involved.
Yes, this joke was starting good. You were on.
I was on track, and then I just lost it.
All right,
the army's coming.
Hi, and this is the joke killer, our John Davenport.
Oh, just kidding, Johnny. Just kidding.
I'm fine.
Hey, if you want to hear more of us three, we just did an Inspired by a True Story episode that's out right now on the Frozen Ground, where Brian tells about how he met a serial killer. True story.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah, on
even.
purpose.
Yeah. On purpose.
It was an apprentice program. He didn't know what was going on. He just sorry. Did I remember that wrong?
No, just it's a job fair thing.
Job fair.
Just trying to.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Figuring out different career options.
So, for anybody that doesn't know, Brian Williams, former host, he's been a forever ho. He was one of the original hosts, and he retired a few years ago, but he's been doing reviews and showing up on episodes. So I appreciate the fill-in, sir.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
And this is a topic I think you will probably enjoy: movie spinoffs that we need. But first, let's talk about something that I think affects everybody but me, because I have A-list. So in a recent interview with Deadline, Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman had this to say about the movie business. I'm going to read this long quote, but I think it's all important. He said, I quote, this isn't me, I quote, "The movie business has gone from number 1 to number 5 in terms of what a young person might do on a weekend. But you can still succeed tremendously. Now, while I have Deadline here, because it's an interview with Deadline, I'm going to use this bully pulpit to raise a good issue, and I hope someone in an exhibition somewhere is reading this. We need for ticket prices to come down." Preach. I think overall, if you look at, for example, at how every Tuesday in America, every single Tuesday is the biggest day of the week. Why? Because of the half-price tickets. That's Discount Tuesday for people that didn't know. It's fundamental consumer economics. Just lower the prices and you'll sell more. You'll make it up in volume and concessions. I do think that is relevant for young consumers. They all have their streaming services, which, because you pay by the month, it feels like it's free. And movies, particularly in big urban markets, they're expensive. So that means it better be super special. I wish exhibition could see its way towards doing more pricing experiments, not taking them up, but taking them down. Now, as you two both kind of go one by one to the movies, I have A-list, so I pay a flat fee and see as many as I want in a month. Brian, you're a guest.
Yeah.
What do you think of this take?
It's both genius and obvious at the same time. It's what us patrons have kind of wanted all along. It's an affordable movie night. It's literally been a running joke for decades. Even the immortal Jimmy Buffett back in the early 90s made a he's got a line in one of his songs called Fruitcakes. He says, I don't want a 12-pound Nestle Crunch for $25. It's absolutely ridiculous to go, like, if you're a family of 4, it's going to cost you like $125.
With food and everything else, yeah. Yep.
With food, snacks, all that stuff. I mean, that's an insane amount of money just for, a couple of hours of entertainment. And 30 minutes of that's going to be trailers. So, which you've probably already seen on Facebook and YouTube anyway. So,
that's true.
Really, I mean, if you look back, it seems like about the last 3 decades, the cycle has kind of been, what can we add to draw more people in? 3D, comfier seats, that's a lot of money. How do we recoup it? Let's raise prices. Okay, so attendance dips or falls drastically. So what can we add to draw more people in? Hey, let's serve alcohol. Let's have fancier foods. Let's 4DX, which I do love. Childcare, whatever. Rinse, wash, repeat.
4DX is a great one, but that's not something you can do all the time. And I don't think it's going to help, Downton Abbey 3 that much.
No. Absolutely. I mean, look, absolutely. It's not something you want for every movie experience.
Unless it creates 100%. Like an English accent in your face. I don't really think that's going to do much.
You can smell the bad breath on them.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
shots thrown.
Good Lord.
Shots thrown.
I mean,
yeah, baby.
So, I'm kidding. You guys are great. I love you English people. Don't hate me.
Yeah, I feel the sincerity in that.
He
says sarcastically.
The whole country has halitosis, but otherwise he feels pretty good about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think you've at this point, they've been adding and now you've just got to subtract some. You've got to make it more feasible and accessible for a lot of families, especially in these days of inflation and everything. It's basic mathematics. So you got it.
Mathematics. Springboarding off of that, I do want to point out that, when it comes to the movie experience, it's getting harder and harder to discern between the boutique movie theater, which is that movie theater where you go to and they have waiters and they bring you everything to your seat, and you have the super.
It's not very hard to discern between that.
What are you talking about?
Well,
I don't even have one of those.
No, price-wise.
Okay, price-wise.
I'm talking price-wise.
All
so
right.
it's getting hard to discern between the difference because, or you can
waiters?
go to AMC. Yeah, you get waiters. You've been to the theater.
Yeah, I've been to your theater one time. I've never been to any other theater where I guess
that had
in Austin,
cloth napkins and actual silverware.
Yeah,
nothing sounds better watching a movie than clang, clang, clang.
I haven't been back there in a while, but I never noticed a difference.
I'm not trying to ruin your experience. You go ahead with your point.
It's getting hard to discern the difference between that experience, which, it's going to be an experience that costs more money, or going to a regular AMC or Regal or whatever theater you're going to be going to, because the prices have gotten really ridiculous. And then you go to those other theaters, you're not even getting the benefit of quality food or a quality service or quality of anything. You're just paying more money for the same thing you would pay for any other day. Sure, it's the benefit of being able to say, okay, this seat right here is where I'm going to park my butt and I don't have to fight for it later. But I live in Florida, you fight for everything, so it's going to happen anyways. That's the downside of movie theaters. Like, there's no longer a discernment between the boutique movie theater and the average movie theater.
So I don't think you're going to like this, but I'm going to be very honest with you. All right. Cause I knew, and it's not you, John. I promise I'm not picking on you, but everybody uses that argument. Like, ticket prices have gotten crazy. They haven't. They're roughly not much different than they were 4 years ago. The average ticket price in 2021 was $10.17. This is across the country, and it's currently $10.78. I'm just saying, like, that is the argument, I think. And don't get me wrong, I think it should come down because everything else costs more. Concessions have gone up and other stuff has gone up. And I think that makes it feel like ticket prices have gone up, but the actual ticket prices have remained relatively the same. They've gone up about $1 in the last 4 or 5 years.
There's not much more room to cut at this point.
No, but concessions have gone up, I think, like 25 or 30%. Now that is a big difference. Like, that, I think, is very impactful.
So what do we cut then?
I don't think the argument is wrong, though. Even though that is the case with ticket prices, it's obvious Because you're talking, even if it's, okay, major markets is probably like $15, right? If you're in a city, it's different than if you're in a lesser than a city market.
Right.
Rural, sure, thank you. Rural versus urban markets.
So hard to say.
Words are
two R's separated by you. Yeah. Words
Fuck,
are
who
not
invited
your
you?
Forte.
So if it's like $15, you're right. That's like $60 for tickets plus concessions for 4 people, right? To go to a theater.
Yeah.
Discount Tuesday drops that ticket down to $5, which is usually $5 to $7.50, something like that. Mm-hmm. That does make a world of difference. I do think you do have to have more discounts, and I would say during the week, because I think, weekend people are going to go on the weekend. Those are the people that want to see it opening weekend anyway. Have the discounts during the week and make a killing on the weekdays. Make up. So it's not even so much opening weekend is the big pull. It's just, throughout the entire week, you're getting a pull. I think that would be a good experiment.
I hear it.
They should try some of that.
So, all right. Yeah. So it's better to get a little bit of money during the middle of the week instead of zero money during the middle of the week.
Yeah. Because most people don't go to the movies during the week. But as he said, Tuesdays now are a big one because they started doing discount Tuesdays. I mean,
which says that people do want to go to I think that's the big thing is that people do want to go, but that hurdle is holding them back. Going, good Lord, it's $125. If me and the wife and the kids go, go on a Friday night or a Saturday night.
Yeah, and
it's $100. It's $100. It's $100 to $150, depending on how much stuff you want to buy.
Which means it needs to be something. Drink. He said something special, and I think that's harder to market nowadays. Number one.
So is it the?
No, I was just saying, like last year we had the strike, so that's delaying content. You're not getting as much of exciting content right now as you would have gotten. That's why it seems like, well, there's not many good things coming out. Well, because they had 6 months where nobody was making anything. That's a big factor for that.
Do you think it's more of a studio issue than it is a local or franchise?
I think
studio or theater.
I think it's a marketing issue. I think it's hard. Nobody watches ads anymore, so you're not getting really eyes on commercials. If you get them on YouTube, you skip them. Nobody watches commercials anymore. So really, I think the only time that's why you're seeing so much. If you notice, if you go on Facebook and stuff like that, a lot of companies are doing advertisers via influencers or similar to influencer kind, where it seems more like a TikTok than it does a professional commercial. That's the new marketing strategy because people will stop on that. They see some random dude telling them, hey, this movie looks great. I just saw Furiosa. You know what? Or Furiosa, whichever you want to say. You will love it. People watch that versus here's an ad of Chris Hemsworth and Taylor Joy starring Furiosa. It's just people don't watch those anymore. And I think they got to rebrand the marketing.
Now that makes sense. I totally agree with you. But man, when a trailer is done right, and to even step back a few years, where like the first time you see it is at the premiere of whatever movie you're going to see, it really draws you in.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, let's move on to Cannes a little bit. So we just had Cannes. Out in France. For longtime listeners, I'm not a fan of this festival. It's what some might call pretentious. But there's a lot of...
And you haven't gotten invited to it yet.
I sure haven't. No, probably because I called it pretentious, and it's so far away. I much prefer South by Southwest. I'm just saying. Cheap plug. But they do have some quality films that premiere there, and it's always interesting how blockbuster films do there. Like they premiered Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny there last year, got ravaged by critics, said it was terrible. Then it came out in the States and actually got great reviews and audiences love it. So I'm just saying, take what you hear out of Cannes with a grain of salt because it's a different audience than you listening, most of you listening. But I did get a few things that I thought were worth mentioning. One, I guess I kind of want to mention, they did premiere Horizon, right? Chapter 1 from Kevin Costner. And apparently the reviews weren't so great, but he got, X minute standing ovation. He got to talk about the fact that he had at least $38 million of his own money in this one movie, which is insane. And I guess I wonder, you guys both like Westerns. Does this seem like a smart gamble? It feels crazy to me.
In today's day and age, I don't think it's a smart gamble to throw that kind of money into something. You never know if you're gonna see that again at this point, especially in a Western. It's hard to sell a Western to today's market.
So it should have been a TV show. Like Paramount Plus would have funded this. I have no doubt with their Yellowstone connection, they would have paid for the whole thing, and you wouldn't have to put any money in there, and it'd be a great TV series.
Ooh, wow, maybe.
Articulate,
but
as always.
how much are they invested into Tyler Sheridan, and is he, would he have a pushback on that? Because Costner basically left Tyler Sheridan's, who has done, I don't know, he's got like a dozen projects going on at the same time. I don't even know how he keeps
literally he's Paramount
all
Plus
of them. Right literally now. Every
yep.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like the male Shonda Rhimes.
Yeah. So I don't know the legal, the personal, the conflict stuff with that, how much he would push back and how much clout he actually has to stop somebody of Costner, going with Paramount per se. But Costner's talking about what? There's 4 of these Horizon movies?
Yeah, 2 have been shot. The 2 are coming out this summer. That's wild. He's going to have them opening within a month and a half of each other. And he hasn't started... He hasn't finished chapter 3 yet, but he's working on it. So yeah, 4 is the plan. Oof.
4 is the plan.
That's a big roll of the dice, man. It's a big roll of
the dice. That's probably 12 to 15 hours worth of...
Oh yeah. That's extended cut Lord of the Rings, baby, for sure.
Exactly.
It's Lord of the Rings, the Western version.
It is. My precious. Speaking of insane, there's another movie that debuted called The Apprentice, which is with Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump, and it's about him and his lawyer, Roy Cohn, I guess. I don't care so much about the story. I just feel like, do we need, isn't this the one character we just don't need any more of? Right, especially right now, election year, da-da-da. Do we need this?
No.
We're so excited about this.
Whether you're pro or against, it's not a matter of being pro or against. It's a matter of just, there's just too much. Mm-hmm. It's a quantity issue.
It is. Yeah.
We don't need any more. He dominates our Twitter feeds. He dominates our Facebook feeds. He dominates the news cycles. I don't care what channel you prefer. It doesn't freaking matter. He dominates the news. I don't need him to dominate my entertainment as well. So Sebastian Stan can, I'll be nice. I'll be nice.
Go back to Bucky. You know what I mean? There's a spinoff. Make the Bucky spinoff we really want.
Exactly. Stick with the metal arm and leave the orange hair to somebody else.
I don't understand the idea of making this movie, and the Venn diagram of the people who are going to go see it are either going to be the people who want to see the joke so bad that they have to go see it,
sure,
and the people who don't get the joke whatsoever who have to go see it. That's going to be the Venn diagram,
right?
And I wonder how much overlap that would actually be.
Either way, it just doesn't sell. I mean, I feel like that's a movie theater that's just waiting for a fight to break out in this day and age, somebody on the right side is going to fight with somebody on the left side because somebody's laughing and the other one's not thinking it's funny. You know what I mean? And what'd you think?
Exactly.
I hate that guy.
Somebody's going to take a peanut M&M to the back of the head and get really mad. And popcorn's going to fly and it's going to be ugly.
It's going to be gross. Well, one thing that wasn't ugly, nice segue. Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley star in The Substance, which is this body horror movie revolving around an aging star who uses this new product called The Substance that promises youth. So basically you get your youth back, but the cost is because you have to share time with this new you because they're playing the same person, right? The new you get a week, they get a week. You get a week, they get a week. Basically, you have to give up a week of your life for every week that you get. It's an interesting idea. It's very creative. I like this. Because it's different horror, different, unique horror.
Okay. Is there a trailer for this? I didn't see that.
No, it just premiered there and it's coming out soon, but it's interesting. It's like a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates this younger, better version of yourself that you get to live vicariously through, but it costs you a week of your life to do it.
Yeah, I need more details because I need more like, okay, if you're old looking and then one week you're young looking, then the next week you're old looking.
Yes, you're getting it. You're picking it up. Yeah, you're doing well.
Yeah, no, you're on the right track.
What do your coworkers think? What do your coworkers think?
She's an actress, so they think you're young and pretty, I guess. And maybe, I haven't seen the movie, Brian. I'm just telling you that the idea sounds it's got great reviews. It sounds really interesting.
Okay, look,
and Dennis Quaid's in it, so I'm a whore. I am.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I love me some Demi Moore. Literally just watched her in A Few Good Men the other night.
Yeah, I just watched that a few nights ago too. I mean, I was out behind your house, but yeah, I was watching it.
I did have the blinds open at night, so
I wanted us to feel like we were in the same room together. I was watching with binoculars and everything, and I put it on my laptop. Yeah, it was a good time.
We were so close, but yet pretty far away. And I, next time just knock. I'll be glad to call the police. Let me see here. So we're talking about Demi Moore and The Substance. So I want to know more about The Substance. It's an interesting concept, and I really don't know much more than what the few notes that Aaron provided me. So I'm just going to keep rambling at this point because there is literally nobody else here in this GD podcast. So what else is on the line here? We've got let's see, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, who apparently has spent $120 million of his own money, and there's still no distribution for it. Coppola is really is he getting too old? I don't know. Wow, this is a pretty big investment of his own money just for a movie that, again, still doesn't have any kind of distribution, but it's got some polarizing views, saying some it reinvents cinema, others are saying that it's just a mess. Who's the guy? I've seen the guy. It's not Adrian Brody. Who's the guy that's in it?
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. There you go. That's it. I like him, but I don't like him. He doesn't draw me into a movie. He almost hurts it. Most of the ones I look at, but.
Yeah, it's Adam Driver and Aubrey Plaza. And Aubrey Plaza has been on record saying that she doesn't think that Francis Ford Coppola needs any defense for anybody. Whatever that means, I don't know. But she seems...
Yeah, look, I mean, he's got enough clout over the many decades, 50 years or more that he's been doing movies. So I get it. He's built up enough equity that if he wants to do... I mean, he could make a freaking cartoon if he wanted to, and it would be okay with most people.
Aaron would never see it, though.
No, he wouldn't. He doesn't like animated stuff.
No, he's too good for it.
Well, I'm interested to see about this Megalopolis. I mean, I'll see it because the guy put $120 million of his own money in it, but that's I don't know. I don't know about this one.
I mean, talk about ballsy move.
Yeah, very ballsy, expensive vanity project.
Sounds like he's been hanging out with Kevin Costner.
Right? Like they're in the same freaking bridge club or something. They
had too much wine they had too much wine over at Francis's
his vineyard.
winery.
That's why he paid for it, from his vineyard money. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can just see the conversation. Francis Ford Coppola is looking over at Kevin Costner. You got any bridges? And Kevin Costner's like, no bridges here.
What?
They're playing bridge.
Okay. See, sometimes.
God. It's times like this, I wish I drove myself off a bridge.
Sometimes that is better. Throw it to a pet cemetery. All right, so standing ovations. What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
I am so done with hearing about standing ovations, and people keep saying, well, it's been a thing forever. I don't care. Have you ever watched a video of one of these? It is insane that these people, after their movie, don't get me wrong, I'm all for praising yourself. Love it. Give yourself all the kudos you can. Love yourself. Tap yourself on the back. Confidence. It's important. But if you're doing it for 7 minutes straight, you're an asshole. There's just no getting around it. Like, I don't understand how you can... I would walk out of the room. I would. I just thank you. Okay, guys, like, stop. Let's just stop.
I'm double parked.
Something. It is insane. If you go and actually watch it, I don't care if it's the French way. I don't care. This is why I say pretentious. Literally standing after a movie and then the people in the movie join in. They're like clapping at the actors, the main actors and stuff, like, oh yeah, it's so good. Or they're standing there soaking it in. I'm like, you do realize how vain you look when you're sitting there absorbing applause for minutes on minutes on minutes, and it has no indication of how good a movie is. And it feels like now it's some stupid contest about who can go longer, who can get the longest one. There's even a record like 22 minutes. 22 minutes of assholes standing around applauding you, and you don't walk out? That makes you an asshole. I don't get this. Help me explain why I'm the asshole in this scenario for thinking this way, please.
Well, I did some research into this, and it has been something that's been going on for a long, long time. It's only started to become reported on as heavily as it is now since the advent of social media and the advent of clickbaiting and all those other jazzes. Sure. So it's only become more evident because there's more eyes on it and more people who don't have the ability of, I don't know, years of education in the journalism field to be able to know what's an appropriate thing to write and what's not an appropriate thing to write. They just start talking about, oh, this movie got this, and that's a story that you're going to click on, and that's great. So I think it's just more evident because of the clickbaitiness of everything on the internet these days.
Yeah, pretty much. I just don't give a F about Ovations. I just think it's one of those things to where at some point a long ovation happened and someone had the foresight to say to some sort of underpaid production assistant that they could, look, we'll let you come to the show, but you have to make sure you document the amount of time of the ovation. And then this made all the other studios took notice of this, and the copycat process took over. And so at the time, I think it was like the initial one, like a lot of ideas, the first one to do it was from a smart, like PR marketing move, was a very smart move. It was, and then
everybody jumped and piggybacked it.
Everybody jumped on it. And now it's a thing to where it's, we're 11 minutes. We're 12 minutes. We're 15 minutes. Now it's just dumb and it's really annoying.
It is.
And so just find something, move on.
And I just love when people tell me about this. Like, this is it's almost like when you tell me how much a movie made. I don't care. That doesn't tell me quality. That does not tell me, well, it only made like Fall Guy is a flop at the box office. Fall Guy only made $70-some million. I don't care. It's a great movie. I don't give a shit what it made. I'm letting you know. It means I don't get a sequel. I'm sad about that.
Right.
But
yeah, but hey, I had a good time at this movie.
Great time.
And that's what I care about. I don't watch a movie because it made
X number,
$300 million.
Exactly. I don't. It doesn't change the quality of it. And also, how long you stood around applauding someone and just blind adoration doesn't really mean that the movie's good. So many of those movies have turned out to be shit. I'll be honest.
Yep.
I think the one time that I heard a story about an applause that I got really excited about was for Brendan Fraser in The Whale. That's the one time I got
that's because you're rooting for him and you're like, I'm glad he finally got some love. I get that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Every once in a while, I'm like, it's great that that person's getting it. Brendan Fraser is one of those cases. I think that year there were a couple other ones that are maybe close to that, but it's lazy writing. It's because you're trying to get the clicks in. You're not getting the clicks because, The Whale premiered at Cannes and this is what the movie was great about, or this is what the story is about, or this is how great the acting is. It's click this because you get to find out at first how long they applauded for, and then here's the movie.
Well, that's the article, though. That's most of the article now. That's the headline. Is that got X number of minutes for a standing ovation? Like, that's journalism now? That's entertainment journalism? I guess where we're at.
It should be a footnote. It should not be the thing that attracts you.
Speaking of attracts you. So there's a guy in Hollywood who's had quite the run of attraction issues, right? He's kind of been driven out of Hollywood for like a decade now. I don't care. My segue was sweet. That was sweetness.
About 7 or 8 years.
Whatever.
It's going to be woof.
Close to a decade. Well, he's got Kevin Spacey hasn't been making Hollywood movies for a while, right? I mean, he got driven out of House of Cards, and rightfully so by all accounts. Netflix did an investigation, yada, yada, yada. So Kevin Spacey now has this 2-part documentary on Max. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I have seen it. Basically, does call him a sex offender, but not a rapist in any way. It's more about unwanted advances, uncomfortableness, using his power to intimidate people to some degree. And then you have Liam Neeson, Sharon Stone, and Stephen Fry going public saying they think it's time to bring Kevin Spacey back. It's time to forgive Kevin Spacey. And it should be noted, I think this is worth noting, he has had many trials, civil and criminal, and he has not been found guilty in any of them thus far. So is it time to forgive Kevin Spacey? Feel free to wade these waters.
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, the more I watch, the more of these documentaries, I tend to, I don't want to say I don't take them for their face value. I do take them with a certain amount of grain of salt, because even though they're based on a true story, the director, writer, anybody involved that started that ball rolling pretty much has a skewed vision or bias that tends to show up throughout the project, even if it's only to make it more entertaining.
Sure.
So, like I said, I watch it with a grain of salt. I appreciate art, and I can watch a movie and separate myself where I leave out my biases towards that person more often than not. I do have my things, I guess, but for the most part, I do try to leave out, like, if it's a quote unquote good movie or that is a great performance, it's a great performance. It doesn't matter what this person has done off the screen, generally speaking. And like, to your point, I mean, the facts are, in the last year, he was found not guilty of these crimes. His friends are actually putting their reps on the line in support of his return, unlike other predatory defendants in the last handful of years. So, there is a lot of smoke. Don't get me wrong.
Smoke, yeah.
There's a lot of smoke. There's probably more fire than can actually be proven in a court of law. I don't ignore that fact.
But I do feel like he has been thrown into the same, and don't get me wrong, I am not defending anything.
And this isn't one trial. This is multiple trials where stuff's not been proven.
But he has been kind of thrown into the same pool as Cosby and Weinstein, and I don't think that part is fair. I don't think that based on anything I've seen, I don't think that part is fair. Doesn't mean I don't think he's weird as shit. I mean, he does creepy Christmas videos and whatnot, but the guy's weird. I get it, but is he a phenomenal actor? Of course. Yes, 2-time Oscar winner. Absolutely.
Right. No. I mean, and again, to the best of my knowledge, he's acquitted. I didn't say innocent, but I did say acquitted.
And that's supposed to mean something in this country.
Absolutely, 100%. And he should be allowed to work. And the bottom line is that he's more than proven with his body of work that should outweigh the stigma that has kind of smothered him over the last probably 7-8 years.
Yeah, you'd feel differently if there's any kind of conviction of any kind, right? Oh yeah,
yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, look again. I mean, Weinstein. Nobody's saying free Weinstein at this point. I
hope not. Oh God,
right?
Monster. So
no, exactly.
John, you want to weigh in? Forgive Kevin Spacey. Where you land on this one?
I think Brian just said. Brian and you have said a lot of what we can say to this subject, whether or not we're going to defend him or not. The thing that I will say,
I'm not defending anybody.
I said defending him or not, which is we're not really defending him. The thing I will say is that from the studio standpoint, he's still very much kryptonite, and that means that no matter if he's been adjudicated or not and found guilty or innocent or guilty and acquitted, I don't think any of that matters because the stigma is already there. And I don't know if we're going to ever get to a point where the stigma will be gone enough where he can be marketable to a movie without people showing up and being like, we're going to definitely protest this, or we're going to definitely slander this movie and slander his name, because for no other reason than the fact that even if he was found not guilty, it means something that many people showed up. Like, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple to that. It's simple to, like, whether or not he should be able to come back it's not up to me, and it's not up to the movie studios. It's up to his level of.
Could you watch him then?
Oh,
could you watch him?
Better yet, I've got a better question for you. You're a studio executive, and you're presented with let's just call it a $200 million budget.
No.
And there's this role that Kevin Spacey is perfect for. Would you hire?
Nope. Absolutely not.
Nope. Not because of the talent.
Really?
Because I think you're going to get so many people that equate him to Cosby and Weinstein that are going to be like, that's gross, and it's going to be all bad press. I think that would hurt your... Now,
really?
I do. Now, if you have a $20 million indie where you have a great role that Kevin Spacey would be awesome at, that's a different scenario where I would be like, yeah, I could. I would, don't get me wrong, he'd be chaperoned like a Mo.
Yeah.
But I would give it a shot because I'm a big believer in the justice system. Just like I think if you serve your time, you deserve to get a chance at society again because you served your time. If you haven't been convicted of anything, civil or criminal, at some point you have to go, is this fair anymore that we're just going off what someone said? It's he said, she said. Is that fair anymore? Like at some point you have to... I don't know.
There's a reason that the court system is set up the way it is. Yeah. You have to prove that this happened. And if you can't do that, not only once, but multiple times, it's you, as you just said, at some point you've got to just say it's person A versus person B.
And it's not saying that they are not actually, they're not true. It's not saying that it's not correct. It's not saying that that's not true. It's not discounting that it's true. It's just sometimes there's an amount of proof.
I said acquitted, not innocent.
Not innocent.
You know, you asked whether or not I could watch him again. I just recently sat down and rewatched Baby Driver.
Yeah.
And he is one of the best parts of that movie.
He usually is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's
Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. He's fantastic. Come on.
He is the best part of the movie. And Baby Driver.
I don't know about the best part, but he's really up there.
Yeah,
but
Lily James is not bad.
He's menacing without being like something scary.
Right. He's intense. He can carry that intensity. He can carry that menacing without making it a cartoon character.
Without making it physical.
Right.
Because he's not a big person. But you're scared of him because you know this guy is he's crazy enough to really jack you up, mess you up.
He gives you that look and you know that you did something wrong.
It is a tricky subject though, because it's not like his behavior based on what you've heard is not great, but it's not as horrible as people have made it out to be either. It's tricky because it's not good behavior. I'm not saying it's good behavior. It's not. There's a gentleman in the Max documentary named Scott. I give this dude all the credit in the world. He's a big dude. He's jacked. I mean, he is a very tough looking individual, and he gets very vulnerable in the documentary about how he, Kevin Spacey made unwanted advances that he didn't care for, that he alluded to that he should do, have sex with them, etc. Didn't push it past any illegal boundaries or anything, but was definitely inappropriate and used his clout to kind of get the guy to come back, so to speak. And it was a very vulnerable scenario for this guy to put himself in. And I really respected that he would tell a story like that, because I know that's got to be tough. And he's a former Marine. Like, this is a tough guy. This is hard for him. And he said that very clearly. And I really respect that. So I definitely don't want anyone's story to be unheard. On the same token, we live in a system full of checks and balances and laws. And if he hasn't been found guilty of anything, is it fair that he can't work? I don't know. I don't think it's fair.
No, I mean, if I was to publicly decry that somebody was a pedophile or something like that, and all of a sudden their teaching job is taken away.
Which happens. Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. And over the course of let's just call it the next 3 to 4 years, that person has not worked. They're proved innocent.
They're acquitted.
I mean,
they're acquitted.
they're acquitted. Yeah. They're acquitted. Yeah, there we go. They're acquitted. Then, yeah, they should be able to work. They should be able to go back to teach or whatever profession they choose.
At some point, you either believe in the system or you don't. You know, it's either we're in a system of pitchforks, which is what that system would be, or we're in a system of laws. And I believe in the law.
Right.
I don't believe it's always fair or right, but I believe in the law.
Correct.
Definitely not fair all the time, for sure, as history has shown. Oof, that's an interesting one. So on that, let's lead into reviews of If and Strangers.
Yeah, let's go with something a little lighter.
And then we'll be back with our From the Outside In topic. Okay, so Troy couldn't be here for the entire episode, but he is here for the reviews, all right? He did the work. So we're going to talk about If in a second, if you have time to review it, you think?
Yeah, I think we should totally do that. I mean, it depends on if you could see it or not, or if you accidentally drink a glass of water.
If
all that fun
I could
stuff.
picture it. We'll get there. But first, I saw a movie called The Strangers. Chapter 1, by the way.
Oh, because this is a planned trilogy from Rennie Harlan, if I understand correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot all 3 of the films at once, and it stars Madeline Petch and Ryan Brown. And this one should be interesting because it's also a kind of reboot, continuation, something of that nature from 2008's The Strangers.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what all happens from Aaron. But first, let you know about part 1. After the car breaks down in an eerie small town, a young couple is forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by 3 masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. So initially, it's like, oh, it's Cabin in the Woods or some other movie like that. But doesn't seem like that's the case because there's a lot more mayhem and a lot more murder and a lot more scary. So is this similar to the original from 2008 or is it going on its completely own path?
It's similar construct. They're, people are at their home and they're being terrorized because they were there, essentially. You remember the original 2008 version? That was the thing. Why are you doing this to us? And it was because you're home. In this version, it's because you were here because it's not their home. So that's the big twist, I guess.
Shock.
This is at a cabin. Their car breaks down conveniently, and there's nowhere else to go but an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, and that's where they find themselves kind of trapped. And so it's a little different because the original movie was very much they're in their own home. It happens in their own home. They have reasons why they are still there for the most part, and here it's a little trickier, I guess, but it's also dark and it's in the woods, so they don't know where to go. So there's some of that too. So it same basic concept, except I'm not going to spoil anything. But as you get to the ending, you can see where, okay, we're setting this up for a future.
So it's truly built as a franchise, not as it's one movie, but we left this one hanging chat in case somebody wants to continue.
Correct. If you stay through the mid-credits, yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Yep.
Okay. So obviously it's 2 of them that are now trapped in this cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's going to be choices that they're going to have to make. Run up the stairs, stand in this corner, go behind this door. Is it like a traditional horror film, or do they make like real good decisions in order to avoid the certain things that are about to happen to them, especially because of the torture that's involved?
Okay, so here's where I'll say now, in true Tim Curry fashion, they are complete and total idiots. So the hard part with any horror movie, right? And yes, I love when Jason Voorhees just dispatches idiotic teens left and right. Yeah, I'm a fan of it. But those movies don't scare me. True scary horror to me, you have to have at least one person, just one, that you can relate to in some way. You want them to live, because that's how the scare works, right? You have to empathize in some way with at least one character. You want them to figure a way out of this madness. Even in a Jason movie where you're rooting for the killer and stuff, you need one character. There are so many, Troy, you will be beating your head against the pavement. There are so many dumb decisions made by the characters. I lost track at 6 separate times. I counted them on my hand as I'm going through the movie. I'm like, that's 1. That's 2. Wow, that's 3. That might be 3 and 4. I'm not sure. I counted all the times And I stopped at 6 and I said, I'm done counting. Where if they would have made a simple choice that was more intelligent, this whole movie ends, or at least a much more favorable outcome. They just keep making dumb decisions after dumb decisions after dumb decisions. At one point, and this isn't a big spoiler, okay? I'm not spoiling anything major, but skip ahead a minute if you don't want to be spoiled. Troy, I know you don't give a shit. Not a big horror fan.
I spoil shit all the time.
You do, usually an accident. So skip ahead a minute if you're concerned this might be a spoiler. I'm telling you it's not. There's a moment where one of the characters is not present and the other character's by themselves, and they're going through the house and the power goes out. When the power comes back on, basically they see one of the villains in the house. So they run to a closet, shut the closet door, or a very enclosed room. It looks like a closet to me. Shut the closet door and then do exactly nothing. Do not call the police, though they obviously had their phone, or you would assume one would have their phone. And then when said secondary character shows up, that person convinces them it was basically in their head. I can't. And this is like number 4 before I got to 6. Like there's a couple more. And there's one where a character has a villain dead to rights and does nothing with this moment. Like there's just so many just bad choices that it became very, very infuriating. And I love these kinds of movies. The first 2 movies I think are great. This is it just doesn't work for me because of the character decisions.
Yeah, and those decisions are basically a product of the writing itself.
Yeah.
So they're trying to extend the movie and like make this decision to get to this next point, to get to this next point, to get to this next point. So we always say it's like the writing is showing. So these could have been written better, because if there's another easy decision, then you've basically wrote yourself out of the movie. Yeah. So it really comes down to the writing more than the acting itself. Because the acting, I'm assuming, was probably fairly good.
Yeah, they were decent. I like Madeline Petch. She was in Riverdale. I always liked her in that show when I did watch it. Now, Ryan Brown is her boyfriend. I don't think either actor is bad. I mean, they're kind of bland, but they're not bad. They're doing what they can with what's written for them. It's just a matter of you can write these situations so you believe that they don't have a choice. You can do get a cell phone disruptor of some sort, like that the potential killers use. Do something that when they leave another room and they put their phone down, you take their phone, so the phone is no longer a factor. Things like that. When they have an opportunity to have a weapon of sorts, make sure that it makes sense what they do with that weapon. Like things like that. It's just thinking things through.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the Jason movies are scary to us, right? Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch Project, I would consider those scary. So Where does this fall in that realm? Is it more classic 80s Freddy, Jason, or is it more Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch?
It's trying to be it's trying to be The Strangers. It's trying to be the same template from the first. The first one is very much a remake of sorts. So if you know that story, it's similar. It's very similar to that story, except for the difference in locales. And it's a similar kind of suspense that they're going for, but it just doesn't work as well as Brian Bertino did in the original film, which we covered on Inspired by a True Story. I think it's in this feed just a couple weeks ago. We dropped it so you could try that episode. So just back up a couple episodes. You can hear the whole story about it. But he understood tension. He understood what worked. He thought these things through. And I just feel like they're not doing that so much here. This is directed by Rennie Harlan. He's been around a long time. He did Deep Blue Sea. He did Die Hard 2. He did Cliffhanger. And, he did The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, one of my favorite comedies that I'm ashamed to love. But he hasn't done a lot of good since then. And this is not scary. No.
Well, then if $10 is the full price of admission, what are you giving The Strangers Chapter 1?
$3.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. $3.
That's painful.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like part 2 or part 3 will be coming then.
I mean, I think it probably will depends. I think they had a solid weekend. I don't know if it'll get a theatrical release. They already filmed them, so they're coming one way or the other. I mean, people will watch them still.
Straight to streaming, probably.
Yeah, maybe they'll get better. Who knows? Now, if you will indulge me, we're going to talk about another movie that had a little bit of a critical lambasting, if you will. Like, it was getting its ass handed to it in the critical circles. But not by me. My written review is very good. Go check it out on the website, thehollywoodoutsiders.com. What fascinates me is that the audiences frickin' love it across the board. The audience scores have been great. Cinema Score was A, and it was like top 80% for Rotten Tomatoes audience score as of this recording.
87.
Yeah, 87%. Look at that. Ridiculously insane in terms of critical score. Well, here's what it's about, so you know. If opens with B, this is John Krasinski's film. He wrote and directed this. It opens with B, who's played by Kaylee Fleming from The Walking Dead. She's still reeling from the death of her mother, as she now faces the mortality of her dad, who's played by John Krasinski, with an upcoming operation. We don't really know what Dad's operation is. It's never really fully explained, which I kind of liked, but it's referenced as a broken heart. So while B is awaiting the outcome and Dad is in the hospital, B stays with her very kindly grandmother, who's played by Fiona Shaw. And then for reasons that become explained as the film unfolds, we're not going to spoil them here for you, B suddenly starts seeing imaginary friends, or ifs, running rampant. Now this leads B to Calvin, who's Ryan Reynolds, really a supporting player here, I would say. He's very much not the star of this movie. Kaylee Fleming is the star. But he's an if wrangler of sorts. And he finds himself tasked with finding new homes for displaced ifs. And as children mature and toss out their playthings, ifs either must find a new child to love or embrace retirement at this Shady Acres kind of retirement home just for ifs. And B finds that she has a knack for helping and also keeps her mind off her dad's impending operation, and away Krasinski's tale goes. Now, he has famously said, I created this for my kids. I wanted something my kids could watch, that I could watch with them. It's a family film. You know, he directed A Quiet Place 1 and 2, wrote A Quiet Place Part 2. He's writing and directing this as well as co-starring. Does the story connect for you? I've heard many attribute this, including, I believe, Krasinski, that this is going to be a live-action Pixar movie. Does it live up to that for you? The most passionate Pixar fan I know.
I would say for me, that's 100% yes. Critically, do I think there's problems with the movie? Absolutely. But for what this movie is meant to do, which was bring the family together, and we went and saw it. I saw it with the missus, the two kids, the girlfriend's boyfriend. Like, it was a family affair. We all had a great time. And like, I'm looking down the row and just seeing like, okay, who's connected with which scenes, who's crying at certain parts. I'm just trying to see, like, is it resonating with them as much as it's resonating with me? Because I was trying to find out if Krasinski was writing adult problems and then portraying them as kid problems, or is he writing kid problems, right? That's really the big thing that we're trying to figure out with this particular movie. And I know for me, like, all the beats where you're supposed to feel something, like there's a really magical sequence when you come into the retirement home that happens that's just beautifully shot and almost feels like it's one camera shot the entire time. And it's just cinematically gorgeous. And I was like crying at the end of that because it's just so much joy in that sequence.
You're talking about the scene where she's directing with her imagination, essentially?
Exactly. Yeah.
My favorite scene in a movie this year. I swear to God. My favorite scene.
It was more Wonka than Wonka was. It was. To me.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And then there's like obviously the big parts, right? When imaginary friends start reuniting with their people. And it's like those moments are so touching that you can't help but be like, oh my God. But there was one in particular where it was like, yep, that's me when I go to work every single day. And it was like, man, that one just hit so hard. And it got me, I think the ending probably fell a little flat because I kind of saw where it was coming and going and all around much earlier in the movie. But I don't think it matters if it's not like just like, wow, the ending was spectacular or the reveal was so spectacular. Like it's not supposed to be a Sixth Sense reveal kind of thing. It's supposed to be the journey and the people you spend it with. And that's exactly what I got out of it.
I felt the same way. I had this conversation with someone who saw it and they said they loved it. It wasn't they didn't disparage it or anything. They're like, I just wish the reveal would have surprised me a little bit more. And I'm like, who cares? Not everything has to have a twist. Oh my God. I'm just like, it fit exactly what was happening. It landed the ending, and there was definitely a little bit of where you're trying to figure out exactly how one piece fits, and now it finally makes sense to you. Like there is a little bit of that, and then there's some definite really cool touches in the mid credits where a little bit more happens after the events are already concluded. Like, I felt like it was a very strong ending. I felt like it was a very emotional ending. I mean, I cried. And I don't cry that often.
And Aaron does not cry.
No, I don't cry. I cried. And I saw it coming a mile away, Troy. I'm watching the whole thing going, I know exactly what's going to happen. Know it.
It's exactly how I was. I was just like, oh my God, it landed exactly where it was supposed. And that's the thing. You're not surprised because the writing was good. It's supposed to land there. That's the whole point of the movie. And so the fact that you guessed it early doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's written really well, because that's how I would have wrote it. I mean, that's how Aaron would have wrote it.
I do have a complaint about I do think there are moments where the script kind of, it gets a bit wobbly in spots, because some moments I feel like are a little rushed, and especially the first half. Some moments are a little rushed, and some kind of take a little too long to get going. It's kind of like finding its rhythm, I guess, the first half. But once it hits that retirement home, once it hits that scene, that's the moment where you got to either win me over completely, or that's about the halfway mark. Either win me over completely, or this just isn't going to work for me. And from that point on, I'm in everywhere we go. I just absolutely loved it. And yeah, it was a good turning point, I thought, except for Ryan Reynolds doesn't do his usual shtick. I mean, he's not Deadpool light here at all.
Yeah, no. And I wouldn't say he's not bad in the movie either.
No, he's just a minor
really
character.
Great. And yeah, he's different. He's more kind of like Adam Project Ryan Reynolds, I would say.
Very much. Yep.
Yeah. And I would say also, like, that first half of the movie before the retirement home scene happens, it's just a matter of trying to understand it. They do a really interesting take in the opening credits on what happens to the mother. And you kind of, I think we can say, because it's right in the beginning of the movie, we assume she dies from cancer, right? Because as the time passes and she's hanging out, all of a sudden you see the mom's wearing like head wraps on multiple occasions. So you assume that she had chemo treatments or something, and she ended up passing away from cancer. But they never actually tell you what she passed away from.
Because it doesn't matter.
Honestly, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right. She has passed on, and now she has this, surgery that's going to happen for her dad, and she doesn't want to have to say goodbye to a second parent. And that's something that a kid would absolutely be terrified about and want to talk to their imaginary friend about. And so, like, from that perspective, it starts out really strong. And then it just it does some things where you're like, okay, well, is she alive? Is he alive? They write words in, like, for example, the dad, not to spoil anything, but they use a line in this movie where they say that the dad is in to fix a broken heart. And it's like, and again, they don't tell you exactly what he's in for. There's a joke about, oh, I want a hamburger, but, I should eat my broccoli instead. So you assume he's got, heart attack, cholesterol problems. But it's also could be the whole gimmick of the scene is just kind of like, is it really just a joke? Like, is the broken heart just because he's missing his wife? And like it doesn't land in a way that you have to assume stuff sometimes. And the assuming the stuff makes you guess more weird things than you should have to guess in a family movie.
Sure.
So I can understand where the critics are coming from, that there's just some things that just should have been more straightforward, because overthinkers like us that have watched a lot of movies are starting to be like, well, is he really? Is she really?
I did too. I was doing that too the whole time.
Yeah, there was some of that, because you can't quite figure it out until you get through the retirement home scene, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is what's really happening here. So that first hour of the movie feels a little bit janky. That'd be the only thing that would keep it from probably getting a 9 or a 10 even. Because the rest of it, when it finally finds its groove, it definitely hits all the marks, and just, oh my God, it was a blubbering mess for probably the entire end of the movie.
Do you feel like it hit for you, whatever? Because I know you love Pixar more than anybody I know. You love Pixar.
Oh yeah.
Did it hit for you the same kind of beats that a Pixar movie? And what are those beats? Like, why does it connect so well with families, I guess? Just because it makes stuff that's basically works for parents and kids alike?
Yeah, I think so. And this one especially probably ties into one of my, I'll call it my most traumatic and over dramatic theater going experiences. And that's when I saw Inside Out for the first time with my kids on Father's Day. because I thought I had that movie figured out. I thought, oh, Riley forgot about Bing Bong, and Bing Bong is helping these people get back to Control Command Center, and Bing Bong's going to save the day. And then they're going on that train and they're flying through the sky, and then Bing Bong basically is too heavy to get the train up to the top, so he lets go and falls into the never to be seen again abyss. And I was like, oh my God, the imaginary friend died. Like, what is, I was on the floor. I was like, my kids are like, we're never going to the movie with dad again. It was traumatic for me because not only was it like my thought of how the movie was going to go was ruined, but it was like, I don't know what it was about an imaginary friend dying that was so like chaotic for me in that moment. But then you come into this movie, which is all about imaginary friends, and it was like the same kind of thing happened. I was a mess for a good chunk of this movie. So clearly I must have had an imaginary friend. I just don't remember what it is. Maybe I should have been in the movie. I don't know.
It doesn't hurt when your lead animated character looks just like Sully's kid from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, for sure.
He could be Sully's kid.
I mean, and you know, it's Steve Carell, but they do a really good job with modulating his voice enough that it's like, it doesn't throw you off that it's Steve Carell, right?
No, and it's really good. What did you think about the voice cast? I mean,
everyone's great.
You definitely play the game of, is that who was that? Who was it? But it doesn't distract from the characters, which I think is the most important part.
Yeah, no, I didn't even do that. I mean, I knew Steve Carell was Blue, and that was like, it's the only one I really needed to know about, and it was fine. There's one character that you never see.
Keith, invisible friend. What a great character.
I would love to hear something come from Keith, just voices or whatever, and people would look around or whatever, because Keith was just there. It was kind of funny.
It was pretty funny.
Now, all in all, it's really good.
How about human performances? Did Kaylee Fleming, and I know you watched Walking Dead, I thought she was fantastic. I was so surprised because I stopped watching Walking Dead shortly after Rick left. So I didn't really see much of her performances, right? Because she came into the show after Rick was gone. I was shocked how good she was. She is extremely talented. She's emotive. She's funny. She's sweet. She's charming. She captivates the camera. Like, I was riveted by her. Like, I see a big future. She reminded me a lot of the first time I saw Millie Bobby Brown. Yeah.
I would say she was better in Walking Dead, to be honest.
Really?
Than she was here.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it now.
In this one, I think she doesn't have to say a lot to do a lot. And I think that's the one thing that maybe critics will probably pan a little bit as well. Because it's just, there's a lot of... I made a joke with Aaron the other day about like she's the world's best leaner because she leans around the corner with these like wondering eyes, and she leans around this corner with these wondering eyes, and it's like, how many more corners are we going to lean around with wondering eyes before we actually move this plot along? But when she does it, you're just captivated by her face and her presence on the screen. So she does do a lot with very little dialogue, but at the same time, it's just there's something. I don't know. There was something in the performance, like when she's talking to her, the kid friend in the hospital, the conversations just seem very short and abrupt. So it doesn't give her like a lot of like scenery to chew or a big monologue to chew. They're just very whimsically childlike. But yet she comes into the movie saying like, I'm not a kid. Like, don't treat me like a kid. But yet she acts and feels and looks like a kid. So they never give her anything to make her not a kid. You know, and then when she does like say like, well, I am just a kid, treat me like a kid, you know, then she does have the really good monologue towards the end. Like that's when she finally starts to shine, is towards the end of the movie. I think the opening, I was a little bit nervous for her. You and I are going to disagree on that. I thought she was great the whole way through. So what about special effects? I thought the character design was extremely clever. The special effects were pretty flawless. I couldn't find any issues whatsoever. And I love the music, which very much reminded me of Pixar because I started humming it after a while. Can I just say there's like an entire, like she's following the ifs through a certain area, and Michael Giacchino just does this amazing little piano thing. And it feels very whimsical, yet I'm on the hunt. And the entire time it was happening, I'm just like, how did they get this music so good and right for this film? Like everything just hits perfectly. And yet the critics are just all over it as for being a sloppy mess. And I don't get it. You know, yeah, it has some challenges, but it's not bad. It's not 44% Rotten Tomatoes. No, not at all.
Is that where it's at now? At the time of this recording? I don't get it. I made my contribution. I gave it a positive one. So I was supposed to bump it a little. I didn't do much, I guess.
Yeah, everything about this feels like John Krasinski's Good News from during the pandemic. Like it was just full of hope and joy and fun and connection, and the grandma's great. I mean, come on. Like
I said this.
Fiona Shaw's so good.
I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I said this in my review that I feel like we live in this time where everything has to be edgy. You know, even the comments, the critiques, everything has to be edgy. So it's almost like when I saw this and I walked out, I'm like, oh, it's too sappy. There's no way critics are going to like this. And sure enough, that's what I saw. And I'm like, God, I was hoping I was so wrong. I really was hoping I was so wrong. I feel like there's a real struggle critically with looking at things that are meant for families from a fair light, because I don't know. I think people are just looking at them almost too critically, because everyone I know that's actually seen the movie likes it or loves it. I don't know anyone that saw it and said this sucks.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Krasinski is like a Spielberg in any way, shape, or form.
No, but this is Amblin 2.0 for sure. You know. Yeah,
but it definitely had the Amblin feel. It had the we could all go as a family and see E.T. We can all go as a family and see Goonies, and it's like those. It felt like that whimsical '80s childlike experience again for me as the adult, and then to see my kids enjoying it as well. I mean, they're a little older, being teenagers, so I thought for sure the teenagers would be like, "This is stupid. This is for 7-year-olds." But no, they connected with it just as easily as teenagers. So yeah, it definitely has that Amblin family feel, which I thought was great. And because of Krasinski doing A Quiet Place and then doing this, it's like it's two very different films. So I'm really excited to see what Krasinski does for the rest of his career now.
Oh, me too, man. Me too. And I love the fact that he keeps casting himself as the dad with the relationships with these girls. And I'm just like, so you're the emotional center of everything you make? I like this. I like where you're going with it. Good for you.
Yeah. And he's good in it.
He is. Very good. Yep. He's like the dad you want. Right? If you're a kid, he seems like the kind of dad you would want.
Especially one that had to deal with tragedy and losing his spouse and, kid's mother.
Oh, there was and I only know this because Emily Blunt had mentioned their kids' names in one interview. And there's a scene where they're on the marquee. Their kids' names are on the marquee as they're outside on the street. Violet and Hazel. Oh. Yeah, I think it says Violet Hayes is what it says. But I'm like, oh, that was a really sweet nod. That's like his own little nod to his girls. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I also love, too, in the opening, screens or what have you, right? The Paramount logo comes up. But the fact that
so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, they transformed the Paramount logo into being tied into the movie. And of course, once you saw that, and then you're like, oh, I know exactly what that is and where that's going to play into. But at the same time, it's like the fact that they tie that in just tells you that there's just extra care put into the movie. When you put extra care into it, it's something special. And screw critics, screw ourselves.
Hey. All right. So final it off. If $10 is full price of admission, what do you give if?
I sat on it after I initially saw it. I was probably closer to an 8, but I probably backed it off to 7.5, just because there are some pieces that just, I don't know, probably were a little clunkier for the kids than needed to be, because it just, and then for the adults that are Uber moviegoers trying to like second guess a bunch of stuff where we really didn't have to, just go on the ride.
Sure. I give it a 7. Same reasons I said it. I think the script has some struggles, especially the first half, really trying to find its rhythm. And then once that whole extended sequence happened, which I'm not kidding, my favorite scene so far this year.
So good.
So well done. Musical, lyrical, artistic, a plethora of colors, just like an artistic explosion of sorts.
CGI, different facial hair for Ryan Reynolds as that thing goes along. It's so good.
So creative. It's like bringing all imaginations into one, like montage. It's great. I really loved it.
It literally makes the Wonka factory reveal at the end of Wonka just look like Child's Play.
Sure does. Like a thing of pure imagination. So it's definitely a movie that I would recommend. It's just the first half. It takes a little bit to find its footing, but when it does, I'm with it till the end. All right. Well, thanks for joining me for this, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now go see If again. Or Furiosa. Or Furiosa. Whichever one you're into. All right. Now we go to our From the Outside In topic. Movie spinoffs we need We need. So basically, you ever wonder why we don't get more spinoffs than sequels? You know what I mean? Like we get a Furiosa or we get something along those lines where it's just more of characters we like in different scenarios as opposed to Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Lethal Weapon 4. You know what I mean? Like
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that like Hollywood doesn't really pick up often on who the star that, you know, they have their intended star, sure, but they don't pick up that often on who the star ends up being. A lot of times a well-placed side character ends up making the movie for everybody. And in cases like I'm thinking Ant-Man, when we have that character just going off on telling these stories, he becomes the best part of the movie, like stuff like that. Like I think the mark gets missed a lot by Hollywood because they're so concerned about the bottom line, whereas they're not listening or they don't even see what is actually happening with the crowds when it comes to those side characters.
No, and when they do them, it's like a dumb idea. What was it, the Jesus Rolls, the spinoff from the Big Lebowski? Who asked for that? Nobody wanted that. Evan Almighty, I like Steve Carell. Nobody wanted that. Sometimes I wonder, like, who's running this ship?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that weird spice is what makes the dish. Doesn't necessarily mean that you want that whatever flavor to be the dominant spice or flavor in whatever dish you're eating.
Are you hungry right now?
I'm kind of hungry now.
A little bit. A little bit.
A little bit.
But it's just because this small character or the actor that portrayed that character nailed that role, or it doesn't necessarily mean they want, you know, they deserve a spinoff. And yeah, and
sometimes they waste the potential. I remember I loved The Fugitive, right? I love The Fugitive. And Tommy Lee Jones is phenomenal in it. And then they did U.S. Marshals, and I actually kind of like the movie. The story is not great, and it's kind of just recreating the same damn story instead of doing something different. And that kind of wasted the potential. Like, that could have been a series I would have really loved to watch. And instead, they screwed it up because they went for basically the same damn story. Like, they screw these up all the time. When they do try to do a spinoff, they have no idea why they're doing it or for who, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. I do like U.S. Marshals. I think it is a good movie, but you're right. It is like the same movie as The Fugitive, where he has to hunt down somebody who's
innocent.
wrongfully convicted.
But if it was its own movie, like its own little universe, I think it would be received much better.
I agree. I just feel like it was way too close. Like, what? Another guy is innocent, and how about you?
Yeah. How often does this happen? How many times can a guy, like an innocent guy, jump off a train? I'm just saying.
Why are they always on a train?
Right. You know, doesn't anybody fly? Doesn't anybody dress?
What a great crossover! They could have done a Passenger 57 crossover on that one. Since Wesley Snipes was in it. Why not?
Executive decision.
Oh man,
executive decision. Con Air.
What are some spinoffs that stood out for you? I mean, I could easily go to the Wolverine movies. Logan, phenomenal. That would be my first go-to. I like what The Conjuring has done. Even if I don't like the movies, I like the idea that they're taking small horror icons and making them like big movies. I kind of dig that. Is there anything that really has stood out for you? Hobbs and Shaw, big fan of Hobbs and Shaw. I don't care if anybody else hated it.
Honestly, I didn't have many for this question, but yeah, Hobbs and Shaw is actually one of them. It's look, I'm a Jason Statham apologist, if you will. I've loved him ever since Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, and so yeah, that's the one that kind of jumps out at me as more of a. The irony of it is that I did make a point of one of my few appearances ago where something, I don't know what, I forget what I was like. Something about it had something to do with the titles, right? It had something to do with the something about this movie, whatever, something another, and I'm like, this, nobody ever does this, and literally you were like, Hobbs and Shaw. I'm like, damn, you got me. So, Hobbs and Shaw is one. It's just it's a fun, stupid, turn your brain off type of movie. And they're two of the more interesting characters, and it's actually a decent story for those two characters. Oh god, you mentioned the fugitive and stuff, and that drew me into the world of like Clear and Present Danger.
Oh yeah.
And this is totally off the rails, but I would love to see a James Earl Jones based side series movie, whatever.
Greer. He's Greer. Same. Yeah.
Greer.
Yeah.
Admiral Greer. Yeah. Right. Obviously, he's got more to do than just deal with Jack Ryan, but let's see a more Admiral Greer centric.
I would watch that. Yeah.
Movie. Yeah.
Not necessarily James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Why not go with the newer Greer from the show?
No, I love him as well. But it's just, that's just kind of where my brain went.
Wendell Pierce he's always
Wendell Pierce is underrated.
Very underrated. He was great on Suits. He's been great on Jack Ryan. Like give the guy his own show. I would watch the hell out of it. Or movie, yep. Sorry. I would watch the hell out of it.
He well more deserved than the guy that did Boba Fett.
Oh God, let's not even. Now we're talking TV. Let's stick to movies because we actually did. We did TV spinoffs in 2019. If anybody's looking, I'll link it to the show notes. But we have done TV. But let's stick with movies. But yeah, I would watch that movie in a heartbeat for sure. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump to some of your ideas. So let's do that. Let's go round robin. And keep in mind, like Furiosa coming to life, right? That finally is coming to life. What's a character that you would love to see expanded into a fully fleshed out film or scenario that has not already been done? So you think of it like Jules in Pulp Fiction getting his own spin-off movie, or Emily from The Devil Wears Prada, or Lex Grossman finally gets a spin-off. Like, could we watch a whole movie of that? I don't know.
No.
Of Tom Cruise saying, literally, fuck your own face. I don't know if we could do that. But the idea is, come up with a scenario. Like, let's see if what your idea is something people would want to see. John, you start. We're going round robin. We each got at least 3 here. So what do you got?
All right, so one of the characters that jumped out of my head, the quickest, and I don't know why it did, because I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but it was Eddie who's Vince Vaughn's character from Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Okay.
For whatever ridiculous reason, I just loved that character. And I thought the way he was portrayed in that movie, and how much like the juxtaposition between him and Brad Pitt's John Smith character was very cool, because you had this smooth, like really action star looking guy being the star of the movie, but then somebody who's supposed to be in the same sort of mindset of him is Vince Vaughn, and they couldn't look any further apart. So
Sure.
here's my movie idea. It's Eddie's double life, which follows Eddie, a former spy turned car dealer who was pulled back into espionage by an old contact. Juggling his normal life and high stakes missions, Eddie uses his wit and resourcefulness in comedic and action packed scenarios, featuring a cameo with John Smith, Brad Pitt, and a romance with a rival spy. Eddie faces a charismatic
Caramel?
a caramel villain.
Okay. Charismatic.
A charismatic villain.
A camel-backed.
Camelot?
In a thrilling showdown, ultimately rediscovering his heroism amidst humor, action, and budding love.
It always fascinates me how you can't read your own words.
Yeah, I know.
I like the idea. I do like the idea.
Thanks.
I want a caramel villain, though. I like just it would be so delicious. Just so delicious. All right, Brian, what do you got?
Oh, less editing, hopefully. This is impossible at this stage, but I would love to have Lance Reddick as Charon from the John Wick franchise as the hotel manager of the Continental.
Could you recast it? Because otherwise, this isn't a great idea.
No, I know. I mean, he's very dead. So, I mean, let's just face it. It's not going to happen. So it's unfortunately, again, he's not with us. So I just think he is one of the more compelling characters in that franchise, and I would love to see him. And he's made comments that, like, I've been here, basically, he's been there for years. Mm-hmm. So, I guess the stories of what he has possibly seen over the years.
Oh, I'd love it.
Is just unlimited.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's just unlimited, and the way that he just composes himself, and his demeanor of everything, I just think it would be great. I would watch that. I would love to see that.
You have to find a really great actor to recast him with, but yeah, I would watch that. In
He
go younger. Just go younger or something and do something along those lines.
Right, yep. Right. I don't want prequels. I don't want some prequel crap. I'm really burned out with prequels, and that's another soapbox for another day. But
it is.
I don't want a prequel.
We only have one soapbox on this show, and Aaron usually holds on to it.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. He pays the bills.
There you go. No listeners do. Patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Help us. All right. Mine is Hermione Granger. I would love to see Hermione Granger in a spinoff. I don't give a shit about Harry Potter. Sorry, everyone. But I always loved her character, and I don't need Ron there. I just don't, unless you need, a sidekick for her. But I'm fine with, like, Ron staying home with the kids and, like, modern day Hermione heads off to her old school to thwart some coming threat. I don't know what it is, but I would like to make it like a former kid from Hogwarts that you used to love that turned due to some cruel world. And I think maybe Neville, right? Because Neville's the one that, and maybe she can save him, maybe she can't. I don't care, but I think it's time Hermione had her own movie. I would love that. I think Emily Watson would be great.
I really like the idea of it being Neville because of, like, first there's the background that when it came to who was the actual chosen one, it could have been Harry, it could have been Neville. Ultimately, it became Voldemort's choice, and Voldemort gave the chosen one the power to kill him. Mm-hmm. But Neville, as the movies progress, he went from this cute little chubby kid to at the very last movie, he may have been awkward, but now we know the actor who played Neville is somebody who is, like, way too good looking for his own good. So
deserves to be taken down. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, he does. He needs.
Yeah, he needs to be taken down a peg or two.
How
absolutely.
Dare he become this
look so good?
Right,
makes it become so good looking and fit and all that stuff. Absolutely, he's got some nerve.
He needs to be taken down a couple pegs. So I like that for this character.
I'm a big fan of this. I really dig that. It's kind of like getting revenge. Kind of like Jerry O'Connell played Vern in Stand By Me. Same thing. How dare you? Get Rebecca Romaine. How dare you? You were the chubby kid in Stand By Me. This isn't fair,
Not fair at all.
Right.
Just put our own insecurities on the screen. I think they're fair. All right, John, what else you got? Number 2. What do you got? Second one.
All right. So I think we need to go back to Die Hard days, right?
Okay.
And
all right.
And I'm just going to go ahead and start with my title of my movie. Sergeant Powell, Redemption Duty. Follows Sergeant Al Powell as he takes on a desk job at the LAPD after the traumatic events of Die Hard. When a series of mysterious bombings rocks Los Angeles, Powell is reluctantly pulled back into field duty to mentor a young detective who's also reckless and a pain in the ass. Together, they uncover a conspiracy that ties back to Powell's past, forcing him to confront old demons and regain his confidence as a cop. Amidst action-packed scenes of personal redemption, Powell proves that true heroism never dies.
I'm with you. You would definitely have to recast that because...
And retitle it.
Yeah, that title is... I don't know about that title. Redemption Duty. How about just Die Hard full Powell? I don't know. Just Die Hard, Die Hard with a Powell. Something Die Hardy.
Sergeant Powell, a Die Hard story.
There you go. A Die Hard saga. Gotta throw saga in there because then it makes it seem more serious.
Yeah. Die Hard, Big Al.
I would watch this movie, though. I think this is a good tie-in. I like it. I do like it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Get Aldous Hodge. Ooh.
Oh.
Right? Make Powell sexy.
Ooh.
I think that would be great.
Aldous Hodge.
That would totally revamp the whole...
Yeah, now suddenly it's better than Die Hard, right? Because, he's a hunk. I might have come across way more gay than I intended with that. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay
very
with it.
much.
I think everyone's used to it at this point.
He is a handsome fellow. Brian, what do you got? What's your number two?
Oh man, my number two is we're going even further back. We're going to the original Star Wars movie.
Okay. They did Rogue One already. I don't know if you heard about this, but they already did that.
Oh, jeez. All right, hang on. Let me find something else. Give me a second while I do some research.
You gotta stop with the Jim Beam before you do the research.
I'm not going with one character. I'm going with a full ensemble, and that is the Cantina Band from Star Wars.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Right. So this, y'all, bear with me. Hang on. We're going into hyperdrive, mofo. Right. So, all right. So they travel all over the galaxy from gig to gig. They're loading up their space van. They're getting stiffed by bar owners. Sure. They're hooking up with groupie stalkers and all sorts of it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a band. Stuff. Band's doing band stuff.
Yeah, it's a band. It's the band life, but it's intergalactic universe, all that stuff. So what you don't want to make it centric to the people the characters that we know, sure. Right? So they occasionally cross paths with characters that we're familiar with. They're not interacting with them. It's just a panning shot of the bar that they're playing in on some obscure moon or something, right? And in the
is it really about the band life instead of just Jedis and shit?
It's about the band. It's about the band. It's about the band life. Their travels
almost famous
throughout the thing.
Cantina edition, basically. Okay.
Yeah, and then you might as a panning shot, you see Han and Chewie sitting in a booth, right? It just keeps going. It doesn't even stop on them, right? It just keeps going. You might see the Mandalorian at the bar asking the questions to the bartender. Who's he asking about? I don't know. We don't know. We don't care because he's just a background character.
I like this. I like it.
Yeah.
I would watch
the Cantina Band.
I'm totally seeing Mark Wahlberg starring in this.
No, don't ruin it.
Oh, God, no, you're fired.
No. What? Rockstar, man? Rockstar? The Cantina story?
No, Mark Wahlberg hasn't been good in anything in like a decade. The Departed was the last time he was anything different from himself.
Right. He's the most boring action guy ever.
He is. I like that. So my next one would be a comedy with Megan from Bridesmaids. That's Melissa McCarthy's character, that look at the steam heat coming from my undercarriage. I want to see her just going full throttle with Paul Feig behind the camera. I want her husband nowhere near this movie because he's a terrible director.
He's
terrible.
Yeah, he's not good.
It's a shame that her career has been wasted trying to do things with him.
Trying to make his kick off.
Yeah. He's not good.
Yeah.
She's great.
No.
She is a talented comedian. I don't care what anyone says. She's a very talented comedian. Unfortunately, she has been saddled with a lot of crap because she wants to support her husband, which is a good thing. It's just he's just not as talented as she is. That's the problem.
He's good for those one or two lines. Mm-hmm. Put him in the corner, give him a good paycheck. That's it.
Make him a producer. I'm fine with that. But get Paul Feig behind the camera. He did Bridesmaids. I think he would do something magical with her and bringing Megan back. And I think there's always room for more Megan. She was a fascinating character who just said whatever people were thinking and also had some really human moments. And I think that would be fun as she goes to search for her own happiness. I would like that.
I would like that too. That sounds like a lot of fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Last one, John, what do you got?
All right.
Bring it home.
My next one's going to be my favorite character from the Anchorman stories, and that's Brick Tamlin. And the title of my movie is Brick Tamlin.
You relate a little too much to him? Is that what it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like riding a furry tractor.
It's like seeing myself on the big screen.
Brick, where did you get a hand grenade from?
John, is that a Triton? I'm sorry.
All right, so the title of my movie, Brick Tamlin, Anchorman at a Time.
I like
After a bizarre on-air incident involving a malfunctioning weather map, Brick Tamlin accidentally activates a hidden time travel device embedded in his beloved Trident.
Why not?
Thrust back into time to various pivotal moments in history, Brick's unique blend of confusion and enthusiasm leads him to unintentionally, hilariously, and historically
is a word you're looking for.
Historically significant outcomes. Ugh, this is getting not to be too much reading for me.
Yeah, it's amazing whoever wrote this.
Yeah. As he tries to navigate ancient Rome, medieval Europe, and the Wild West, Brick must find his way back to the 1970s with the help of quirky historical figures he befriends along the way. Ultimately, he discovers that his accidental time travel leaps were part of a greater plan. I can't believe I got stuck on that goddamn word. To preserve the timeline.
Yeah, I can't either. Oh, yeah, I can't either. Whoever wrote this stuff was just off their freaking rocker, apparently.
Finish
so,
it.
Good job sticking through that there, John. Appreciate that.
What is it? Greater plan to preserve the timeline. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, greater plan to preserve the timeline.
Okay. I love the idea. Not necessarily the explanation, but I love
the delivery. Right.
the idea. But I do think you missed a great opportunity to do a fantastic crossover with Keanu Reeves and call it Brick and Ted. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I was thinking Bill and Ted's the whole time, and I'm just like, yep. Oh, I just opted for railing on John extra, so that's all.
Oh my god!
You guys are crying. You're laughing so hard at all that.
Oh my god! Scott Clark just recently told me we're too hard on John, and I'm like, no, we're just hard enough.
Yep. Wait till he hears this one.
That's funny. No, that's a good idea. I like that. Brick was the best character for sure from Anchorman.
Yeah,
better than Anchorman, in my opinion.
Brick, where did you get a laser gun from?
All right, Brian, you're third. Bring it home. What do you got?
I'll tell you what. My third is actually TV, so we're going to skip that.
Make it a movie. Make it a movie. You can make a character and make it a movie.
I can't. I can't.
Okay. Well, then I'll tell you my third. How about that?
Yeah, tell me your third, and I've got one that can play off of that. How's that?
Okay. And I would love Darth Maul spinoff since you talked about Star Wars. I would love that. I would love to go see Darth Maul, like make him a villain of someone else's story. I think that would be great. Now,
that's funny you mentioned that because I've got an idea that it involves Darth Maul. So go ahead with your third one.
My third one is, I know a lot of people want a Cliff Booth spinoff, right? Because from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I know Tarantino was going to do that. He decided not to, wants to do something else. That's fine. Tarantino, if you go look at his film collection, I could literally pick 15 to 20 characters I would love to see just one movie about.
Easy.
Yeah. He easily has the best repertoire of characters of any writer working today, my opinion. But I want...
And I'm amazed you actually used that word correctly.
I did. I've been practicing.
You did. You pronounced it and used it correctly. So good job.
And did not write it down, which makes it easier, right?
Is that all a dig at me? Is that...
No, that was a dig at me.
No,
it's not all about you.
No, it's not about you. God, good Lord. You're the most egotistical person with low self-esteem I've ever seen. Good Lord. I'm making
Let me
fun
give
of
you
him,
some standing ovation for a little bit. How about that? Let's bring it full
I
circle.
would appreciate some
I'm
standing
making fun of
ovation.
him because he all the time pronounces stuff incorrectly, which is amazing considering how meticulous that he is.
Okay, all right. I don't notice it.
And the fact that he actually used a French word with the correct French pronunciation
with the umlaut in the right place.
Yeah. With the umlaut in the right syllable.
Emphasis on the right syllable.
Right. Okay, so here's what I want. I want Hateful Eight is one of my favorite Tarantino movies. I love that movie. I watch it every Christmas. I'm weird. But I want Sheriff Chris Mannix. I love Walton Goggins. Everybody's in love with him today, but I've been in love with him for years.
That's a true story.
I want Sheriff Chris Mannix to get his own film. And Walton Goggins, what he'll do is he survives the events of the Hateful Eight because you don't really see him die. He just finishes the letter and he's like, that's a nice touch. And then the movie ends. And now he has to deal with a town that doesn't respect him as he tries to outlaw the lawless. So he's basically, it's his version of Tombstone, but the Tarantino version of Tombstone, which means it's going to be dark, it's going to be violent, it's going to be very profane. That's what I want to see. And I would love to see Walton Goggins get that opportunity because that guy delivers every single time. Now, if it's 15 years ago, I probably would have went more Michael Madsen, right? But I just can't go back to the Mr. Blondwell or, and do a prequel. It's a little too late for something like that. So
yeah, that window's closed and that's about like watching Steven Seagal in just about anything at this point.
Sure. I would watch. Wow. Wow. I would watch a Jules movie. I would watch a Jules movie in a heartbeat. I mean,
it would be nice because there were rumors for so long that there'd be the Vega brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That was a rumor for so long, and it just never happened. If it was even a thing, but
I think Tarantino teased it, but he always does that, right? I want to do this. I want to do Kill Bill 3. I want to do this. I want to do Star Trek movie. Like all these things he talks about. Because I just think he likes to talk and he has a million ideas. The guy is like a nonstop idea machine.
It's a matter of what day you catch him on to where this is the project that's in my brain right now.
But to me, Chris Mannix is a character that people wouldn't expect to have their own spinoff, and which is why I think Tarantino would nail it.
No, that's fair.
All right, Brian, what do you got?
All right, so I'm going to one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made, and that is the Han Solo movie.
God. Hey, you want to hear how he got his name? Because he's alone.
Oh, my God.
Han Solo. I gotcha. Fair enough.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Wow. So, Emilia Clarke plays, who's from Game of Thrones fame. She was Daenerys Targaryen, right? So, I mean, everybody, that's where we all know her from, not from this movie. But she plays a character called Kira. Yep. I don't know. It's got a Q, an I, apostrophe, all kinds of stuff in it. Right. For 5 characters, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Anyway, throughout the like, she ends up leading the Crimson Dawn criminal organization.
Yep, I remember that.
That's under Darth Maul.
I remember that.
So let's see kind of how that path takes her that direction, right?
Let's see that story.
Exactly. She wasn't the worst part of that movie. She was
fine. I liked her a lot. The movie was the worst part of that movie.
No,
the writing was the worst part.
Some other casting, the writing, the Woody Harrelson.
Still would have loved to see the original version with Lord and Miller. I think that would have been a great movie, and Disney just didn't want to take a chance. But beside the point.
With who?
Lord and Miller were originally they wrote and directed Solo, and then Disney didn't like it because it was too funny, so they brought Ron Howard in to make it more Star Warsy. But anyway, her character was in both versions. I just would love to see that.
I'd like to see her kind of in the form of, say, maybe The Godfather type of deal.
Okay.
Right. So it's heavier. Maybe she kind of, with The Godfather, Michael Corleone basically takes over the job from Don Corleone, his father. And you
makes him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah, you obviously haven't watched it.
I have. It's been a long time, but I have.
He's not the one who makes the offer. Anyway,
I was just throwing the quote in, jackass. I wasn't trying to. You're throwing God damn. It's like lined up perfect.
But maybe something along those lines where she takes it over from whoever the overpowering figurehead. Right, the first half of the movie is it's some crime lord, right? It's Darth Maul. It's maybe even somebody below Darth Maul that's kind of running this organization, and she eventually ends up taking it over, type of deal. Kind of a Godfather type of feel. Godfather, Goodfellas, a good mob movie.
I'm in. All these sound like great. Why can't Hollywood come up with ideas like this?
I don't know. A bunch of rehashing old ideas. Rehashing old ideas.
Well saved. Well saved. Oof. I'll give you a standing ovation. I'll give you a standing ovation.
I don't know about
I just want to point out that I gave you something to run with, whereas you guys would have left me twisting in the wind.
And then you have the moment, and you have to say it out loud. You would have had it.
Yeah, no.
When you earn something, you don't have to talk about it. Shh. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Just walk away, and everybody goes, "Man, that was cool, John." Instead, they're like, "Well, he had to point out that he had the freaking gauntlet."
Yeah, no, I'm gonna point this shit out. Nobody. Since when do you guys point that shit out? Doesn't happen. You guys like to point out when I fuck shit up.
Well, I mean, do it less. I don't know.
Well, it's good to be consistent.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be a retread, but let's go back to this idea. So we asked our listeners in our Facebook group to come up with an idea too. So we're each going to pick one. I'm going to give you, this is low hanging fruit for me, but I don't understand why it hasn't been done. And that's Kyle Nolan says, short round. What's he been up to since his adventure with Dr. Jones? You already have Ki Hai Kwan, who just won an Oscar. He's on top of Cloud Nine. And I think everybody that likes that series would love to see that movie. He's obviously great at martial artists. He was a stunt coordinator for years. He has the chops. Give him a movie. Give him a movie.
You know what would be great? You know what would be great, but also not very good cinematically? Is making him the most boring person. Like, he's got an office job. He's stuck in a cubicle. He's answering phone calls all day.
He's Neo?
Right? He's
Isn't this
pretty much
plot of Anywhere, Everywhere at Once?
I don't know.
Yeah. And then one day, like somebody comes up to him and says, "Hey,
no, because his childhood is so adventurous, right? It's all this crazy stuff with Indiana Jones and whatever else he's gotten into as a child."
Mm-hmm.
Like, eventually, like, he's just kind of settled into
having PTSD,
and maybe that's part of a movie or even a series where he kind of grows out of that or finds a way to break out of those doldrums. But yeah,
and then he becomes an adventurer. I just think
that the fact, yeah.
And then he, at some point,
because we know him we all love him as that kid that was just between Goonies and Indiana Jones. It was like we all wanted to be him. Basically.
Oh, he was great. Absolutely.
And then he just disappeared. And so it's like, to see him in a movie where he's boring would be kind of funny.
And then he eventually does break out, though, because I don't want to watch Short Round just sitting around an office for 2 hours.
Right. Just taking calls all day. Right.
Going to therapy, explaining why some white guy carried him around the world for so long. I mean,
Right. I thought he was my friend. Turns out he was like 40 years older than me.
It was weird.
I
got to admit, it's kind of weird.
It was really weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. He didn't touch me or nothing, but still, it just was really uncomfortable when he's talking to me about his sexual conquest. I'm just saying.
Man, what we dealt with in the 80s. All right. Who's next? John, pick one.
I'm not going to be able to do this very well. So however this is pronounced, I'm very sorry. But Comte de Interrompre? I tried.
Comte de Interrompre.
I'm not even sure that's just a pen name or something. Matilda from Leon the Professional. She has grown up and become successful in normal life, but people around her are unaware that she has kept up with the training that Leon gave her. Something happens and causes her to bring that part of herself to the foreground, and action ensues. I am sold. Natalie Portman fucking people up. Let's do it.
I'm in, and I will even expand on that.
Oh, goody.
All right. So it's tying in not only The Professional, but also Wanted by one of my favorite directors.
Okay.
Timur Bekmambetov.
Easy for you to say.
It is. And
oh shit.
Oh, we lost our fearless leader. Anyway, he'll be back. So, yeah. So basically, it's almost pretty much the same plot as Wanted. There's this guy stuck. Apparently, I'm fascinated with people stuck in cubicles at work.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's stuck in his boring job, and again, nobody.
A cubicle at work?
It's not. Not really. No, it's more of a bullpen.
Okay.
Kind of like the you see in the movies with the it's either like a newsroom or a detective, police station type of deal. Lots of noise. You're trying to talk on the phone and you can't hear a goddamn word. What the fuck is going on? But whatever. Yeah. So she's kind of doing like the office work type. She's like, this life isn't for me. She's doing that kind of stuff, and she kind of gets drawn in one way or another back into the action stuff. And my man Timur would be a great director for that.
I think he would be able to do a good job with that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Who else we've got here? We've got Nate Bruce says Quint from Jaws. Basically kind of a prequel thing where he's on the Indianapolis and his sharking tours and obsessions. Fair enough. That's Ty Nelson says, still waiting for a Nightwing movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Do you think that's a viable choice right now?
I think I like the tease of that more than I like the actual movie, the idea of the movie.
I would agree with you. I look, the tease of it was great, and we all and we were watching that movie, and we're like, God, he's got to be Robin. He's got to be Robin, even though they're not calling him Robin or calling him what his name is. You know,
it's that payoff that it's all that anticipation, and it did pay off to a certain level in that movie, and I think that's enough.
Yeah, I think that's enough. I don't like, how are you going to be able to tell any more of that story? I don't
think the character of Nightwing is enough for a 2-hour movie. That's my personal take. Batman is basically, Batman to me is like Spider-Man to Aaron. So
I think Nightwing is something that works with an ensemble group, but does not work on his own.
Agreed. Yeah, I think he's more of a supporting character than a lead, lead type of deal.
Yeah.
Brad Peterson says he would like to see a prequel to Rambo with the story of his days during the Vietnam War. Yeah, that could work.
That could work.
I mean, I'm not. Again, I'm burned. Look, I'm personally burned out with I said it earlier. I'm personally burned out with prequels. And you're also talking about the same guy that has played the same character for
50 years,
40 years. We're going to go with that because, because I remember watching the original Rambo movie. So yeah, I think it could work. You're basically going to have to recast him or do some super CGI stuff. And I
don't see Stallone letting Rambo go.
Yeah, I don't see him relinquishing any of those properties to anybody else.
What do you mean I can't play him anymore? I could do that.
Right. I can play 22-year-old me.
I can do that, okay.
That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed that topic. Brian, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
We had chaos at the end. I started losing power. So I'm just trying to get the fuck out of the door before this thing just goes to total and utter shit.
Can I have alligators showing up and swimming through your...
Absolutely. Holy shit. All right. We got chaos. It's like tornadoes. It's madness. Twisters come early. Like literally the wind ripped the patio. You know how you have those big stone things to hold your patio umbrella? They're like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Blew it off the deck.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. So a cow's coming in no time flat.
And Glenn Powell any second now.
That's okay. He's a stud. Come on, man. Come on, Glenn. Guys, you can find more information at thehollywoodoutsider.com. Please leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It always helps the show. Please, please, please do that. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to come back. We'll be back. And we're not going to be here for Memorial Day, but we'll be back after that. Thanks again for listening. Remember, the next time you head to a theater or sit comfortably on your couch, buy popcorn. Just pay reasonable prices for it. Get the refillable bucket. AMC has a refillable bucket. They don't even advertise. Get that. It's such a great deal.
You can get the bucket that everyone's banging. There's that one too.
Yeah, there's the vagina bucket.
Yeah. Or that. That's an option.
Just get the extra butter.
Jesus. Get the Kevin Spacey bucket. Too soon?
No!
Oh, and there he goes. There's the line. There's the line.